Alrighty, what is up everybody? I hope you are as excited for this as I am. Now, just to give a preface to this, I had no idea how to 3D animate, and I had no idea what I was doing. So if you have no idea how to 3D animate, this video is definitely for you. But by the end of this video, however long that may be, you will be able to create this or a rendition of this with whatever colors or shapes that you want and get them listed on OpenSea as an NFT. So strap in, get your coffee, get your Red Bull, get whatever you need, your popcorn, and we are going to dive right into this. If you find this video helpful, hit that thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button, as we're going to be pumping out a bunch of content for you guys. Okay, so the one thing that you are going to need, the program that we're actually going to be building this on, is called Blender. You can go to blender.org/download and just grab the most current version. Right now it is 2.93.4, 183 megabit install. Once you grab that, we will dive into the actual Blender. The link for this will be down below as well. Alrighty, so here we are actually inside of Blender, and what I'm going to do is go File, New, General, and I am going to save that. Alright, so here we are right at the opening of Blender. This is what you're going to start out with. Now, real quick, a couple things that you should know is a lot of what you're going to be doing, moving around your canvas, is going to be done with your mouse wheel. So, of course, you scroll out to zoom out, scroll in to zoom in. Now, if you want to actually zoom around, you will click and hold your center mouse button, and that will allow you to rotate this. Now, if you're wanting to actually shift on your plane, you will hold shift and then hold your mouse wheel, and you can move your plane back and forth. So just some basics on how to get around. So the first thing we're going to do, if you want to use a cube, the cube will work for this tutorial. If you want to use any shapes, you're free to do that as well, but we're going to delete this cube. We're going to hold shift and press A, and that's going to bring up this add menu where you can add a bunch of different shapes, and the one we're going to be doing is the cylinder. So we're going to go shift A, mesh, and cylinder. Now, if you're wanting this to be sideways, you can simply go RY90, and that will turn your cube sideways. But for this, we're going to use it straight up and down. The one thing that we do want to do is we want to make this cylinder larger, or longer, or taller, however you want to say it. So we're going to press S, and then we're going to press 8. Now this is going to give you this massive cylinder, and all you want to do is go up on this axis here, how you see this little pointer, and click your middle mouse button. Okay, once we do that, you'll see we have this elongated pillar. You'll hit enter, and there we go. We have a pillar. Very simple, very easy. The next thing we want to do is we want to actually open this pillar up as our camera, let me move this over here, as our camera is going to be going straight down the center of this pillar. So what we want to do is we want to hit tab, and tab is going to take us into edit mode. If you see this window on the top left, we have object and edit mode. So pressing tab will cycle between object and edit. So when you're in edit mode, you're going to click this third icon here that says face select. Okay, and this is going to choose our upper and lower face. So once you click that, go ahead and click the top face, hold your middle mouse button to scroll to the bottom, and while holding the shift key, because we want to select both of these, you're going to click the bottom face. So now we have both the upper and the lower face selected, and we can manipulate those faces. So from here you're going to hit X, and it'll bring up this menu, and you're going to click faces. So now you can see we have this completely open-faced cylinder right here. Let me get more over the center. We have this completely open-faced cylinder that we can now begin to manipulate, work with, and actually animate for what we need. Now, the very next thing we're going to do is on the left side you have this wide selection of tools. We're going to choose the loop cut. Okay, so you're going to click loop cut and then click anywhere on here. It's going to the center. Alright, and now you'll see on the bottom left this brought up this loop cut and slide menu. So what this is going to do is, if you remember our original animation, it was basically a spiral of blocks going down. So we want to take this cylinder and we want to chop it into blocks. So we're going to go number of cuts, and let's go ahead and make that about, let's do 21 loop cuts. Okay, so we'll hit enter and click out of it, and now we have this cut up cylinder that we can continue to work with. Alright, so the next thing we want to do is we want to actually split these up. So you can see we have a bunch of little blocks in here, but they're still all connected. So what we're going to do is we're going to press A to select everything. We're then going to press F3, and we're going to split edges by faces. So when you first come into this menu, it's just going to be a blank search bar. You're going to type in split edge, and you want to mesh split all faces by edges. Now when you first do that, it's not really going to show anything until we go over to this right side menu and click on this little wrench icon, which is modifier properties. You're going to click add modifier, and we are going to add a smooth modifier. Now once we've added that, we can hit tab, and we can see now we have all of these split up little edges or boxes that make up this cylinder. Okay, so you can see that is where we're at right now. Not too complicated, definitely not as complicated as I thought it was going to be when I first started. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do, because we want this to seem like one full piece, if we were to just go straight through it right now, you would be able to see a lot of this background stuff in here, which you don't want. You just want it to be going straight through a tunnel. So again, we're going to go over to the add modifier wrench icon, and we are going to add a solidify modifier. Once you click solidify, you can see that these get a little bit thicker, but we want them to be thicker still, so we're going to go down to thickness, and we will make that about, let's do a negative 0.13. So now you can see that we have more of this full cylinder look with all of these thick blocks that we're going to have spinning, right? So this is where we are right now. And one other thing you can do, I'm not going to do this, and I didn't do this, but this may just be to your taste, is you can go add modifier, displace modifier, and then with this displacement modifier, you can then take it and turn it into these straight cylinder, or these straight bars that go around your cylinder, right? So that's really up to your taste. I am not going to be using the displacement because I want all of these unique little blocks that are chopped up that we can then send our camera through once we color them. Okay, so now that we have this, what we want to do is we want to actually be able to make this cylinder spin, right? Or we want to be able to animate it. So what we're going to do is, first off, down here on the bottom right, we're going to choose our frames. So I'm going to give myself 240 frames to work with. The next thing we want to do is we want to click this little circle button down here. It's an auto keying button. We want to click that on. We then want to hit A to select all of our items here. And then we want to click just the cylinder so we're not interacting with the camera or the lighting option, right? So when we have this selected, we're going to press I, and then from insert keyframe, we are going to insert rotation. Okay, so now we have this rotation modifier on our cylinder. Okay, so what we want to do now is we actually want to go to this little square or object properties. And you can see down here on keyframe 1, we have this little diamond. So at keyframe 1, we want this rotation to be at 0, which is great. That's where it already is. What we want to do is we then want to drag this all the way to frame 240, and we want to set the z-axis, which is going to be what's actually turning it, to 180 degrees. Now if you want this to spin faster, you can make that number lower, say 120 degrees. Or I'm sorry, if you want it to spin it slower, you can make it down to 120. If you want to make it faster, you can scale it all the way up to 360 degrees. But now if we click off of this and we click play, we have this rotating cylinder. Right? So here we are, we have our rotating cylinder. And again, if you want to make it faster, you can just up the z-axis. You don't want to mess with anything else other than that z-axis, or you're actually going to have your cylinder flipping over itself, and of course we don't want that. We just want it to spin on that z-axis. So now we have a cylinder broken up into cubes. The cubes are thicker blocks and they are rotating for us. Alright, so the next step, and I hope you're still following. If you're still following and you haven't subscribed, make sure to hit that subscribe button and the thumbs up button. Let's go ahead and add some color. So the first thing we want to do is we want to go to this little globe icon down here, material properties. we want to click New, and right in here, all we want to do is make this base color very, very dark. So we're going to make that black and click yeah, actually, it does not need to assign that. So, right, so we're just going to click material and make that black. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to go into edit mode. So hit tab. We're going to select faces, and we're just going to select one random face. Now, when you do this, it may look like it is all together like this. Don't worry about that. When you render it, it will look a lot different, right? So you can see here, when we're in object mode, all the faces are split. In edit mode, they're a little bit meshed together. Don't worry about that. So you're going to select a random face, any of them. We'll go ahead and select, say, that guy right there. And then on the top left, next to the Faces selector, you're going to click the button that actually says Select. Now, in this, you're going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spots and click Select Random. Now, what this is going to do is this is going to select a random face that has something similar with the face you selected or is on the same object. Now, this is a lot. You can do this to your own preference, but I'm going to scale this all the way down to, say, 0.13, and with random seed, let's just go ahead and mess around till we find something that looks good. I like that, so we'll go 0.136, random seed 5. Okay, now what we want to do, on the right side here with this material, we want to hit the plus sign to add a new material. We're going to go New. And then down here on surface, because we're not going to be using an external light source, our colors are actually going to be emitting our light, which is going to give the rest of the cylinder that glow feel. It's not going to have a light coming from the outside at all. It's all going to be generated from within. So we're going to click this surface, and we're going to change that to emission. Now, for this, let's go ahead and just use, let's say Christmas colors. We'll use red and green. So we will make the first color red, and we will click Assign. Now, what Assign is going to do is it's going to assign this color to those faces we have selected. So we'll hit Assign. And again, it's not going to change anything here. If you ever want to see your current progress, hold the Z key and click Rendered, and we can then see what it's doing there. You can hold Z again and go to Solid, and it'll take you back to this right here. Again, we're in edit mode, so it's going to look a little wonky. If you want to see it even better, change to object mode by hitting tab, and then go to your rendered view. So we do want a secondary color. We want that secondary color to be green. So we're going to go back up to our face selector, hit select faces. We're going to select another random face. We're going to go to select random, and it's going to give a random seed of faces throughout our cylinder yet again. And let's go ahead and generate this to a different. Let's go random seed 9. We're going to go over here and hit the plus sign to add a new material. Okay, so plus sign, new. Make sure to change that surface to emission. And we are then going to change the color to a Christmassy green. And then once we do that, we will click Assign. Alright, so now we have a rotating cylinder split into blocks. The blocks have been thickened. We've added some color and, of course, that rotation. So what we're going to do is we're going to quickly go into object mode, hold Z, go to rendered, and we will click play. So now you can see we have this rotating cylinder filled with color. Now all we need to do is set the camera. Of course, on these blocks you can kind of see the background, and all you would need to do to change that is go to your wrench icon for your modifier and mess around with the smoothness and the solidify factor. So changing these around, you can go like here, and you can see at this point now we can barely see any background at all, and there we go, we have our spinning. Now what we want to do is we actually want to insert a camera. In this case, we'll just use the camera that's already here. You would have a camera that started with your program anyways. So we're going to take that camera and we're actually going to make it go through your loop. Now the only other thing we want to do is, because if we send a camera through this, it's going to be at the end very quickly. So we want to select and hold Shift, press D. Now what that did is that just copied, and now once we do that we hit enter because we don't want to move it yet, but what that did is that just copied what we already had, right? So Shift D, and then select that there. Now we're going to want to move this on an axis, right? So we're wanting to actually move this down. And all we need to do that on the left menu here is we need to click this icon that says move. Now when we click this and then we click an item, it will allow us to move on any of the axis. We want to move this on the Z axis, so we will just drag it down to elongate our cylinder even further. So now we have this absolute tunnel that we can send our camera through. Now, let's add that camera and animate it through the tunnel. Alright, so whenever you started your project, you did get a camera in there, and it will be this little black box that you see right here. So if you still have the move icon selected, you can grab your camera and then move it on the axis. We want to place it right above our cylinder. So we're going to move it down and get it going right above, well, right above the cylinder like that. Okay, so you can see our camera face. If you click the camera view right here, the camera icon, you'll see what the camera is seeing. So we're going to toggle into that, and then we're just going to mess with these rotations until we get the camera pointing directly down into our cylinder, right? Okay, so now let's go out of camera view, and let's put this right on top and right in the center, like so. Okay, so now if we click on camera view and we kind of mess with this rotation a little bit more, we want to make it going right down the center. Boom, there we go. Now we have our actual camera view, so when we render our animation, we're going to make sure that our camera view is the one that they're seeing, or well, rather the camera view will be the one that they're seeing, so we want to make sure that the camera is perfectly center. You can make it lower to the floor, lower to the side, lower to the ceiling, based on your preference, but for this video we're going to make it going right down the center. So the only thing we have to do now is animate this camera, so as our cylinder is spinning, the camera is going right down the center of it. So that's what we're going to do right now. Alright, so if you remember how we actually animated the rotation using our frames per second, to where the rotation starts at frame 1, ends at frame 240, and that's what's actually going to make it spin, the camera is going to be essentially the same thing. Now, you're going to be using the same menu that we used to actually place the camera inside of the cylinder. We're just going to be using the location instead of the rotation, right? Well, we're going to be using the location, but we're going to be setting it to a certain frames. Now, the only thing you want to mess with is the Z axis. So on the bottom, take your frames all the way down to frame number 1, and that's of course where we're going to be starting at. So at frame number 1, we want the camera to be right where it is. So wherever that is on your Z axis, lock it in, click that little diamond right next to it to animate property. Now once you've done that, we're going to take our frames and we're going to drag it all the way to the 240th frame. Now at the 240th frame, we are going to animate the Z-axis, and we want to put this down our cylinder a ways. So let's go ahead and make this all the way down to here, and we will animate it. Now, when we press play animation, we should have a camera that will actually go through the cylinder, like such. Now, of course, you can make this go faster or slower depending on how you want, but I choose to add that little bit of a bounce in there, and that's really just playing around with the Z-axis and animating it based on the frame that you're in. So here we are, we have an animated rotating cylinder that is split into blocks, and we have a camera being sent straight through it. Now all we have to do is actually render this so we can turn it into an NFT. Alright, so now we're ready to actually render or turn our animated file in Blender to an MP4 file that we can then put on OpenSea or Rarible or whatever NFT marketplace you prefer. So on the top right here, you can see, or on the very top menu, you can see there is a render animation, but before that we have to actually mess or tweak with a couple of the rendering settings. So on the very top, you're going to click Rendering, and it's going to show you this blank grid. Don't worry about that. What we do want to worry about is up on the top right, we're going to click this little output properties. Kind of looks like a printer, but we're going to click that. Now what you want to do is you want to actually select the file or the output file where this is going to be deposited. In this case, I'm going to select Blender Renders and accept. You're going to want to make sure that your file format is in FFmpeg video. If it is still in a PNG, it's just going to render each and every layer as a picture and deposit 240 pictures into your output folder, and it's going to be absolutely useless. So make sure you click FFmpeg video. The last thing we want to do next to encoding is click these 3 bars right here and click H.264 in MP4. Okay, now once we click out of that, we can go up to Render and Render Animation. Now this is going to open a grid at first. Don't worry if that grid takes a minute, it is just loading. All this is going to do now is just frame by frame, it's going to render your animation. It may be laggy, it may be slow, not to worry at all. But once you've rendered it, it will deposit it into a file in whatever output location you chose. So let's go ahead and let this render, and then I'm going to show you how to upload it to OpenSea as an NFT. Alrighty, so we are done rendering and we are in the create menu. Now I've already created a collection. All you have to do that is just go to your profile, click create new collection, and you're there. And once you're inside that collection, you just click create item on the top right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag and drop our file in here. Let me go ahead and grab that guy. Bam, there we are. And the next thing we need is a preview image. Now, in order to actually get this preview image, all I'm really going to do is take a snipping of this animation and add it as a picture. So I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see this, but all I'm doing right now is grabbing my snipping tool, and I'm going to snip that guy right there. Let's go File, Save As, give it just some random name, and let's go ahead and grab that. So let's go here, and there we go. So we just have a basic image that displays what our animation is. We will name this the 3D, whoa, hello caps lock, the 3D tunnel tutorial. And in the description, I'm just going to paste, maybe. Alright, I'm going to put something in the description, but I will do that later. So here we have our video, here we have our preview image, we have our description, and of course we're going to put it in the 3D NFT tutorial collection. So if you were to go on OpenSea and type in the 3D NFT tutorial, you'll see this and the original animation that I made when actually learning how to put this out for you guys. So we'll go ahead and make the supply. Let's just make 20 of them. We're going to make sure they're on polygons so we're not paying any gas. And guess what, guys? We're going to click create. And there we go. You now are a 3D animator for NFTs. Congratulations, give yourself a pat on the back, round of applause. And if this video helped you guys, make sure to thumbs up, subscribe, and if you want to, you can even actually tweet this video out to really help the channel out. But we will catch you guys on the next video. A couple videos coming this week. One, we're actually going to talk about how to properly market, advertise, and promote your NFT collection so you're getting good, consistent sales with your collection. And we're also going to be doing something interesting, a top 10 underrated or undervalued NFT video. So we're going to look at 10 NFT collections that have really good concepts and ideas, or really good communities, or just really good art in general, but they're not getting noticed on OpenSea. So I would love to actually do that to help out the community, and we're going to be putting that out as well. So stay tuned, guys. We will catch you on the next video.